isomerization. No? So, of which, the dihydroxyacetone phosphate, ibalila na siya. No? I-tilt lang. Para mahimong glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Ang dihydroxyacetone phosphate will just undergo isomerization. So, to become glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So, there will be 2 molecules of 3 carbon compounds called glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate out of the cleavage of this fructose 1,6-biophosphate. Are you with me? Okay. Now, reaction 6. Okay, here. So, reaction 6, ang glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate would undergo, okay, so you have here the release of electron participated, or say, there is now release of electron which is accepted by the NAD. So the NAD undergoes reduction form or reduced form, undergo reduction reaction. So there is oxidation of the carbohydrate group of this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So the result is, of course, you have the 1,3-biphosphoglycerate. So when there is oxidation of this D-glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, now electrons would be released and it's now accepted by the NAD. So the NAD is reduced this time. So the NAD is reduced, the NAD accepted the electron. So it becomes now 1,3-biphosphoglycerate. So that is participated by what enzyme? Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. When you say D, means removal of hydrogen. Removal of hydrogen, which is the source of our electron. Ihatag niya sa NAD.
So NAD H.
So nahin mo siyang NAD H. Ang nag-accept sa electron, ang NAD. So that's why it becomes NAD H. Now, this NAD H, remember, is a potential energy source. Ang NAD H. So, ang NAD H. So, kinahanglan na po na siya, dili na siya pwede ilabay. Mura magsapal na pwede pa imong cookies. You can make sapal out of, cookies out of sapal sa coconut. The sap of the coconut. So, this has to undergo electron transfer chain, kaning NAD H. Kinama sila electrons. So, mo undergo further generation process for ATP production. Okay? So, you have 1,3-biphosphoglycerate, meaning out of, say, this glyceric acid, ang iyang phosphate na as a first on the third carbon. First carbon, third carbon. First carbon, third carbon. So, they are now 1,3-biphosphoglycerate. But, how many NAD H will release? Pila ka NAD H? Duha. Kaya duha man ka glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate molecules. So, duha po na release na NAD H. So, take note of that. So, pila ka NAD H? Duha ka NAD H. So, kinahanglan na ito na. These are end products of glycolysis. And of course, napatay end products of glycolysis, 2 molecules of pyruvate. These are the raw materials for, this is the raw material for glycolysis. Now, glycolysis is anaerobic. It does not need oxygen here. So, if there is no oxygen class, ang imong glucose will just give you a net later on of 2 ATP molecules. Say you have a gross of 4 ATP, kinahanglan na siya 2 ATP, so pila na lang ang net? Okay, 2 na lang. So that is what happened, class, when there is no oxygen. So out of that 1 glucose molecule, your cell can avail only 2 ATP molecules. Now, and the cell requires more of this, around Now we will compute that later. So you compare anaerobic without oxygen, 2 ATP will be given to you out of 1 glucose molecule. But when there is presence of oxygen, it can give you a net of 36 ATP molecules. That's why without oxygen, the cell will be suffocated. That's why we will die. Especially the brain cells, which take the lion's share in terms of energy requirement. So, rupture na kanang clotting. Like bursting. Now, so, you have here. So, there are how many? So, the phosphate groups are found in the first carbon and on the third carbon of glyceric acid. Now, this time, this is exergonic reaction. The next step will undergo, say, the sixth step involves exergonic reaction where 1 phosphate is given off. So, ang phosphate on the first carbon would be given off. This time, that phosphate you have here, it's now accepted by the adenosine diphosphate. So, maka-attach siya, maka-receive siya sa phosphate, name siyang adenosine triphosphate. This is an exergonic reaction.
Ano yung ADP na
It's just there in the cytosol.
It's floating.
Oh, na sila freely. Kung ano mo na, adenosine triphosphate, of course, that comes from the carbohydrates, the lipids, the amino acids that are broken down. May siyang adenosine triphosphate. When the cell needs, so may siyang adenosine diphosphate. They're just there. Now, when there is again another phosphate given, then bind na po siya. So, yun na lang mahitabo. They're just there. They are products of breakdown of carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. The products of catabolic activities. Got it? Okay. So, from 1,3-biphosphoglysierate becomes 3-phosphoglycerate. But of course, how many ATPs were released? Duha, because there are 2 molecules of this 1,3-biphosphoglysierate. So, there are 2 molecules of ATP that will be formed. Okay. Now, the 3-phosphoglycerate undergoes isomerization again. Phosphoglycerate mutase. So, another isomerization in which ang phosphate on the third carbon will just be transferred on the second carbon. I-transfer lang siya sa second carbon. So, from the third carbon, i-transfer lang siya direct. That is catalyzed by phosphoglycerate mutase. Now, in reaction 9, there is again removal of, water dehydration. Dehydration of 2-phosphoglycerate to become PEP or phosphoenol pyruvate. So, you have the 2-phosphoglycerate would undergo dehydration. Tanggalan siya tubig. Ang 2-phosphoglycerate, tanggalan ng tubig. Ang mahitabo, mayroon siyang PEP or phosphoenol pyruvate. Okay, that's why we have water as one of the end products of cellular respiration. Water. So, natay water as end product sa glycolysis. Now, we have the 10th reaction, which is, of course, the PEP undergoes exergonic reaction again, of which 1-phosphate again is removed. When the phosphate is removed, then the pyruvate is formed. But of course, the phosphate is now accepted by the adenosine diphosphate to become adenosine triphosphate. So there will be again